Anyhow, there you got a chance to look at some of the things you're going to learn, especially regular verbs. For a good part of both of these French programs, we've been using some verbs and just telling you what they meant as necessary. The verbs we actually conjugated were the irregular ones because they were the best words to know right away since they're so common.
Almost all of these regular verbs fit into 3 categories. Each category has a specific conjugation pattern, and all the verbs in that category are conjugated the same way. This means that once you have an idea of these 3 categories, when you run into a new verb you haven't had the pleasure of meeting before, you'll know how to handle it, no problem.
So, the point is, once you learn how to conjugate these 3 forms of regular verbs, using them is just a matter of knowing which verb expresses what you want to say. And the neat thing is, you know a lot of the infinitives already.
Section B. Let's conjugate.
Enough talk. Let's conjugate.
The ER verbs.
You've been introduced to the infinitives of a bunch of ER verbs already. They're called ER verbs because they end in ER. Duh. Some ER verbs that you've already heard are aimer, préférer, détester, écouter, regarder, acheter, chercher, and many, many more.
In an ER verb, the part before the ER is called the stem. As you conjugate the verb, the stem doesn't change. The endings do. The stem for aimer, for example, is AIM, which won't change as you tack on new and different endings.
Let's look at one of those neato conjugation charts to see an example ER verb. Parler.
Parler. Je parle, tu parles, il, elle ou on parle, nous parlons, vous parlez, il ou elle parle.
In parler, P-A-R-L is the stem. The endings are the same for all regular ER verbs. Let's make a chart for just the endings.
See? We set up the chart as usual, but now it just shows us the endings for ER verbs. The endings are E, ES, E, ONS, EZ, ENT. Now that we know that, let's do another ER verb so we're sure we know how it works.
Let's do écouter, the verb you heard but didn't learn earlier, which coincidentally means to listen. We'll point out that in écouter, E accent aigu, C-O-U-T is the stem, but don't get too used to picking out the stem of the word. After a while, you'll just get used to conjugating ER verbs, and you won't have to try to pick out the stems. J'écoute, tu écoutes, il ou elle écoute, nous écoutons, vous écoutez, ils écoutent, ou elles écoutent.
Think you've got a handle on verbs? Feel free to review as much as you need to. Once you feel comfortable, there are a few more tricks we have to tell you about.